Today's sponsor of the Vision Quest podcast is 920 Hat Company. Leather patch hats are in, and 920 Hat Company is here to hook you up with your very own custom hat. All patches are lasered on top-grade genuine leather and on popular brand hats like Richardson and FlexFit. Whether you're looking to show off your business or want a one-of-a-kind hat for yourself, 920 Hat Company can do it all. All the hats are handcrafted right in the Fox Valley, but worn across America. With over 500 hats in stock, they guarantee fast turnaround times. Honestly, Liam, looking at these hats, solid, right?
Yeah, they're pretty. I like them.
I like that patch itself.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, one-of-a-kind stuff. I know his name's Trevor. He does great work. He's actually gotten I think we got a knit hat coming.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, we got that coming. So we're really excited to have these guys on board as a sponsor. So get down to check them out on Facebook. I believe they're on Instagram. Check them out, man. They got the best hats, I think, in the Fox Valley, if not in the state.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So get down to 920 Hat Company on social media and check them out. And we're live, man. We're not doing 2 minutes, 11 seconds anymore of the song. I used to do that. I love the song. A guy created it for me. That's in town here, but we can't do the whole thing. 30 seconds. Everybody, we are here. It's another episode of the Vision Quest podcast. We are joined today by, I would say, a fellow podcaster who, I wouldn't say you're new, but you've been around. You started kind of chirping a little bit on Twitter, and then boom, all of a sudden he's got 10 episodes out. And we're joined by the Low Single, and I'm not going to tell him your name. We're just going to call you the Low Single. How's it going, man?
It's going good. I will say my name. It's Thomas Kelly. Everybody listens. They know. I appreciate you having me on. This has been a long time coming. Like you said, Not too long doing this, about I think 8 or 9 episodes. I think I just dropped 8, but I'm looking forward to continuing and just keep on going. So
nice. So we were talking earlier, just kind of getting to know each other and figuring kind of who we are out and all that stuff, but kind of asking you some questions about, obviously where you're from, things like that. But you said you are originally from Stillwater, Oklahoma.
Yes, sir. Yep.
And then you had you unfortunately had to move to Kansas, right?
Yeah.
They're making their way up. They're making their way up in wrestling, in high school wrestling. It's okay. I get it.
Yeah. It's definitely a lot different here in wrestling than being back home, for sure.
So did you enjoy just athletics or anything when you were a kid? Did you play sports when you were a kid?
Yeah, so I kind of started. I started like football at a young age, and then different stuff. Like I played like hockey because we got like semi-pro hockey teams here, stuff like that. I played soccer for a long time. Yeah, anything I could really.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, anything I could get my hands on as far as sports, I would. Even in high school, I played tennis. Joined the tennis team by accident. The wrestling coach told us we had to do a sport. And I was like, he's like, and I want you to run track. And I'm like, come on, coach. I've always been a big boy. Like, come on, coach. I was like, I don't run. And he's like, no, that's what he said. He's like, you can throw shot put, you can throw javelin, all this other stuff. And I'm like, okay, cool. He's like, but you still got to run before practice. And we run miles. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not going to work for me. So I was like, oh, I'm on the tennis team. And he's like, oh, okay, cool. I'll come out to practice and see you tomorrow. And I was like, oh, crap. So, yeah. So that I like accidentally joined that, but it was actually so fun. But I didn't actually start wrestling until like high school. I didn't really, being here in Kansas, like you said, it's not as prevalent as it is back there, back in Oklahoma. So I didn't really do it until I got in high school. And then like the way the coach got me to do it is he's like, you ever wanted to fight in school, but you're not allowed to? And I'm like, yeah, because I grew up doing karate. My grandpa taught karate for 45 years. So I have like a karate background my whole life doing it up to high school. Yeah. And then he's like, well, you can fight. He's like, and the teachers and the principals all cheer you on. And I'm like, what? How's that possible? And then he gets me in the wrestling room and I'm working out with him every day. And he worked me over every single day. Every day I got coach. I try to get somebody different. He's like, nope. He's like, where's Kelly? I'm like hiding in the back. Like, oh crap. Like, I'm sick today, coach. He's like, nope. And my uncle ended up being like a volunteer coach. So even trying to get out of practice wasn't happening. Was not happening. My uncle's like, no, I'm about to go pick him up right now. Like, even if I didn't go to school, my uncle would go and pick me up from home because he stayed with us at that time. He'd come pick me up at home, take me to practice.
Yeah.
Taught me to be a good man, but it was rough.
Good. So, and I wasn't awesome. Like, soccer was my game and wrestling was my brother's, but we both did the same sports together. So like, he did soccer. I was better, but he still loved it. He was really good at wrestling and just kind of liked it. If I was as good as he was, I probably would have won state, but he didn't give a shit enough. So he didn't win state. But I got drugged to the Badger camps where you even as a kid, you're running with guys up the steps at Camp Randall. And it was horrible. It was the worst thing on the planet. I was a soccer player already. I didn't need to run. I was good on running. Right. I was trying to Ben Askren my way out. I'd be like, I'll just wrestle more. Don't make me run. Don't make me, do all that stuff. But I wasn't very good. I think I did maybe I was below 500 in wrestling, dude. I'll admit I sucked.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was probably in the 150 range, but I was that kid that wore the singlet that his sides were pouring out of it a little bit. But I was the 150 kid that was doing that, right? Like, I was not appropriate to be in a singlet whatsoever. Yeah. But it was fun. I had fun doing it, and I didn't do the workouts. So were you a big lifter?
No, not like, not so when like we're doing like karate, we didn't really do like a lot of lifting, obviously, in karate. So when I got to high school, like my grandpa always just beat it into us. Like, if you work hard enough, you don't need to lift weights. He's like, you want to get stronger, do more push-ups, stuff like that. So that's the kind of stuff I would kind of just base it off of. But I did start doing a little bit of lifting. But yeah, like you said, like I never like dove in really hardcore with it. I never, like, my best year I had was my junior year. I started the season like 4-5-0, and then I got hurt, and then me and the coach butted heads. And being a teenager and being a junior, and I'm like, I only got 1 year of school left. I thought I was Mr. Hot Shot. I thought I would quit. I thought he would beg me to come back. He didn't beg me to come back. They wrestled a kid that was 20 pounds underweight just because. And I mean, again, it was another one of those life lessons where it was hard, because you walk around and you think like, oh man, I didn't have the record to to have that cockiness or to have that swagger. Like I said, 4-5-0, and one of those was a JV, like a JV tournament on the weekend, because that was the first weekend we had, and the varsity team didn't have anything, and I was on the varsity as my first year of varsity, but yeah. Like I said, four or five matches, man. And then I thought like, oh, coach, I was like, we don't got another heavyweight. The closest guy to me is like barely, because there's like 215 at that time. I don't know if that's still a high school weight, but 215 at that time. Yes. So that guy was like, and he's like 20 pounds under that. So I'm like, oh, this guy's like, there's no way, coach. Like, they need me. No, they didn't need me. They didn't need me. And then my senior year, I did online school because I was just done with school. I tried to like drop out. I thought I had the grades and stuff. It literally just, I didn't want to be there. And but then I was like, my mom was like, no, like, ain't no way you're quitting school. So then I did online school. So I literally never wrestled again after my junior year, which was tough for me because that senior year, I really missed it. I really, really missed it. Yeah. But by the time I tried to talk to the coach and stuff, he's like, well, how do I know you're not going to quit on me? And again, my pride flew up, and I was like, oh, well, if you don't want me, I don't want to be there, So I could have had an opportunity, even doing the online school, I could have still wrestled. But my pride and my ego of that 4-5-0 made me feel like I was world champion,
It was
like I hadn't made a state championship, but I sure felt like it. I'm on 4 wins,
Hell yeah. Kids, don't take after us, please. Don't take after us. Don't do what we do.
Listen to your coaches for real. That's the one thing I can say out of that. Listen to your coaches for real.
For real. So, and that was kind of the one thing. It's funny you mentioned that, because I'm pretty sure I was in school so I could play sports. My grades were only good just to stay in sports. That was it. C, D, right around there. I didn't care. I was like you. I was still ballsy enough to walk into the guidance counselor's office and be like, I wonder what college I could get into. Pulling up all these college magazines and stuff, looking at it. And she's probably just, why are you in here? You shouldn't even be in here right now. But I tried to act like I was like, yeah, dude, I'm going to go to like Concordia or something, a little school in town here. I'm going to get my education. I wasn't even worth the paper that you signed up on. So it's interesting and kind of how things change like that. And then now like with me, I tell Liam, I'm like, dude, don't do what I did. Like what I did, the way that I did it, would I turn it back now? No, but you don't need to do that, and you shouldn't do that. You should not do that at all. And I think he got to the point where he kind of like listening to the stories that I tell, he's like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do it the way my dad did it. So
yeah, see,
way.
I have 2 young girls, and yeah, if they ever came home and they're like, oh, said or did what I said I did, oh yeah, we'd be going back up. We'd have the coach on the phone. We'd be like, no, we apologize. We'll do whatever. We'll Coach Carter it. We'll do push-ups, sit-ups, whatever we got to do to get back on that team, we're going to do it. So for sure.
That's right. So I can identify with the team that you identify with the most because our uniforms are practically the same as Oklahoma State's. It's a little crazy. Being that I've been an I started out an Iowa fan. I mean, from little, Tom Brands, Terry Brands. I mean, I grew up on that stuff, right? Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Sorry, brother. Ooh.
Grew up on that, right? So my brother, we would wrestle in the attic, and my brother would be Tom or Terry, whichever one he felt better that day. But kind of going through the phases in life, and just I stopped paying attention to it, right? Like it didn't. I was like, oh man, it doesn't really matter that much to me. But then you come back into it and you see how much it matters still to that little community, right? Just the little things within it. So like you said, Dynasty Defined podcast. He's a smart, like up here, right? You and I have like the emotion, and he might on a show once in a while, but we're the guys that are like, man, I watched him. He just really looked like this. He really, really looked like he could do this. And I can tell in his face kind of thing. So were there things that you did earlier on in life that were kind of like this that kind of brought you to, did you do anything similar to this at all ever?
As far as like podcasting, no.
No.
I'm just like I'm a people person naturally.
Okay. Yep.
For my job, I do pest control. So I'm like interacting with customers, stuff like that. Nice. I'm like just naturally, I can like this, I can get on here. We've never like met, but I just feel like, wait, give us 10 minutes and bam, I'm going, So yeah, I've never really done anything like this. People would tell me like, oh, we think you're funny. We think you should do like a YouTube channel or something like that. Yeah. And I've thought about it, but every time I thought about doing it, I'm like, well, there's nothing that I can really like connect to that much, because like it's easy to start something, but like I'm a person that if I start something that like, unless barring like some crazy life happening, I don't see myself like not doing this in a month or not doing this in 2 months. And that was like the biggest thing. And that's why I kind of like pushed my reveal back or like my show back when I was first coming out with it, was because like I don't really like to go into anything just half cocked, like I want to go full loaded into it. I want to pour everything I am into it. And then if I couldn't really think of how I could do it, or if I couldn't really brainstorm anything ahead of time, then maybe it's not for me. And that's another thing, like with the pod, is like when I do the episodes, I don't write things down. I'm not very organized. I don't prepare, you know what I'm saying? Like, like I'll do a few bulletins like, hey, this is what we're going to talk about tonight, like duel this, duel that. And then like, I just go with the flow, and I don't very often have to like re-record anything. I usually like one shot goes. So it's kind of like, I feel comfortable doing this. So like I said, there's nothing that really in my past that brought me to this. It's just really the connection of Oklahoma State. And then I was a big fan of the Dynasty Defined. I still am. I still listen to this pod. I still support him. But that's what kind of made me want to get into it. I was like, well, I would like to do that. And I was like, well, how about I do a YouTube show? But then as we discussed before this is my first time ever being able to successfully set up everything go the way that I would like it to go. Because it just wasn't working well for me, but it's led me to here, and I really enjoy it. And I'm just glad that the community allowed me in this space, because that's what it was for me as well. It wasn't just like, hey, I want to do this. It's like, do you guys want this? You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah. And that was kind of, so like the way I started the wrong way, with a phone trying to record next to, so I could get their voice onto my phone. So it was on a file on my phone. And then it's like, okay, how do I put this on something? Like, where do I put this on? So I did it for a little bit, and I cut it because I was like, I don't have the right stuff. Like, there's something wrong here with how I'm doing it. It just didn't feel right. Right. I don't know, maybe 8 months or something like that. I put it down because I was like, I need to get equipment. So I was starting to price stuff, and I was looking at everything, and it's like, this is fucking expensive. This is not cheap. And that's the other thing I think people don't realize is that, and I'm not crying about it, but we're doing this because it's fun, right? We're doing this because we enjoy putting this out for people. I enjoy doing it because a lot of times people get the side of other people that you might want to ask these questions at a tournament or have this conversation at a tournament with someone, but it was like you said it in this last episode, or you in one of the episodes that you have. You don't want to bug people, when if you're walking up to someone like the Bassett's, for example. I know those guys. We wrestled on the team with those guys for a couple dual tournaments, but I still didn't want to bug those guys because of the I don't know, the energy around them. Everybody else wants to talk to them. I don't want to be that dude that's like knocking on their door. But at the same time, though, too, like this gives the opportunity for people to see them for that, right? It allows them to see that side that you weren't able to ask about. And then plus you're getting a different perspective. You're offering up a visual of a duel that you saw. Like I said, we put the emotion into things, and we bring a little bit more of the trueness out of something. Now, it's not to say like Mike Mal's not talking to someone and they don't get, emotion out of something or anything like that, but it's something different, right? And you're bringing something different. You're bringing a different twist to Oklahoma State wrestling, right? I mean, that's the whole thing. Just like, eventually, I don't want to, and I'm going to get mean for a second here, but I'm not going to talk about the Badgers wrestling because nobody wants to talk about Badgers wrestling. There was a podcast that was done here with the coaches, and they don't even do it anymore. It was kind of weird. The environment around Wisconsin with Badger wrestling right now is a little different. It's a little tense right now. Some guys not too happy. Some guys that that just kind of making remarks. That there are things that people know and don't know. But I would bring that flavor here. But it's like, what's going to happen next? I don't want to be a guy that's telling news about negative stuff. So I like talking to other people, but now, Liam's a part of the Cavalier team. So I kind of have been watching those guys a lot and been picking up a lot. So it's a different view. You're bringing a different view and your flavor, your taste. And like we were talking about before, and, breaking news or anything like that. We're just telling people stuff that maybe they wouldn't have access to, or maybe they didn't think of, So I respect what you're doing. Like I said, it's a different flavor. It's a good mix. And with the numbers side on one side, and then with, I guess, like I said, the emotion side, it sounds bad. It sounds kind of girly, but the emotion side on the other side, you get a great mix, right?
Yeah.
So when you were talking about kind of starting this up, when you were looking into like YouTube and things like that, whereas the kind of the same thing, you're kind of eyeing up like, okay, what are the schematics here? How do I get to put this together? And it's very kind of confusing at first. What were your first thoughts when you did your first episode?
So my first thing was, this was supposed, like I said, it's supposed to be a YouTube show, and I get on there and I'm like, hey, 2 weeks from now, I'm gonna start the Low Single YouTube show. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be great. I'm excited. I'm getting a lot of support. People seem to be excited for it. I'm like, okay, that helps me feel more motivated. And then, like you, I get down and I actually recorded one other previous like a recording with like I said, the Oklahoma State. He kind of covers all athletics, the O State All Day guy. And like I said, I would use this mic, the same mic. It would not work. Funny enough, like I said, it's literally just one click of a button.
Yeah.
But, couldn't get that to work, man. My ring light wasn't working real well. I didn't even have this like set up to where it is now. I was kind of just in my bedroom, and I just kind of just shut the door because I got kids too, so it's kind of hard to get a moment to just get it. But that's why, and I was also like, my room is downstairs, so I have an upstairs, I have a downstairs. Well, the room's downstairs. Well, the internet was terrible. You know what I'm saying? So So shout out to him for being like so kind and so polite to me, because after like a couple days later, I'm like, hey, any feedback you got for me? He's like, yeah, sends me a paragraph of stuff, and he's like, please don't take this offensive. He's like, I wasn't going to say anything unless you said something. And I was like, yeah. And like, first thing, he's like, get better internet. And
For sure.
I'm like, man, I'm sorry. I mean, like even right now, I'm just running off my computer.
That's my, I need it right next to me. Because I'm in the basement too. So if I don't have something down here, I'm screwed. Like it's going to chop, it's going to bounce, all that. Yeah.
Yeah. Mine's probably about like 7 to 10 feet away from me over to my right here. So, but yeah, like I'm like, he didn't mean it like discouraging. And it wasn't like, nothing he said was rude, but in the end, I kind of was like, well, if he thinks this, like, what's going to happen when I press? Yeah, I press play and I'm on here by myself winging it. And then, my friends, my close buddies got to tell me like, hey, bro, because I got like a little group chat. It's like me and 3 other guys called the Loyal and True. It's just, we're just in there just shooting the stuff, saying stuff that we can't really say publicly. Just, literally just talking, speculation, you know, running through like probable lineups for next year, just random stuff like that. And like those guys will give it to me straight, But yeah, I didn't. And then I start looking stuff up, and it's like, this camera is not the greatest. I mean, it works well, but it's not the greatest. Like, it's not real clear. I get that. But like, I had already bought the computer. I bought the mic. I look online. This mic tells me, like, they tell me like a little video I watched, like, that mic's okay, but it's not the best one. The one I should have bought is like $30 less. I'm like, works way better.
Compatibility's a bitch. Compatibility with this stuff is a bitch. I will tell you that much. There's one thing that I worry about the most is like I said, now this new camera that I have is like, God, I hope this works. I hope people see me. I hope they hear me. And I hope the rest of the shit works with it when I hook it up. Cause you just don't know. You hit record and you're like, okay, what's kind of moment like that. But so when you started covering Oklahoma State wrestling, now you're from Stillwater. So obviously the Oklahoma State lore is already in your head, right? Like did you pay attention to the wrestling stuff when you were younger in high school and stuff like that?
For sure. Yeah. So,
you're not like a new guy kind of the scene or anything like that really loves it. You've known about them already.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I've been an Oklahoma State fan my whole life. Nice. Oklahoma State, everything, any sporting event, anything, like I'm there for it. And I'm actually from Pawnee, which is like 27, 30 miles from Stillwater, but everybody knows Stillwater more than they know Pawnee, obviously.
Well, I mean, unless you watch Parks and Rec, then you know Pawnee, but that's Indiana.
Yeah, I don't think that's Oklahoma, but
yeah, right.
But yeah, so I've been a fan. Like I went to duels when I was young. That's another thing I get online sometimes.
Oh,
like,
nice.
Since I haven't came out, and because I had like a personal account before I had this whole account, and it had like my just normal stuff, pictures of me, pictures of the kids, the wife, stuff like that. But then I got this account, and then like people are like, sometimes you'll get a few people that comment stuff like, oh, like, you just started becoming a fan because David Taylor's here. And like I told you before we got on here, like I don't never say anything negative back to people. I don't never argue with people. Actually, funny enough, Joe is the one that there's one podcast where I kind of addressed that. And Joe told me, he's like, hey man, if I can give you one advice, he's like, don't fuel the haters, because once you've acknowledged them, he's like, in their little ego, they're like, oh, there it is, So I really tune that stuff out. But yeah, I've been an Oklahoma State fan and Oklahoma State wrestling, and like specifically my whole life. Like I met John. The first duel I ever went to was, I think it was 2000. Like it had to be like 11, 12. I talked about it on the pod a little bit. And that was the one I got to meet Jordan Oliver, which is a good friend. Fast forward to now, he's a good friend of mine. I really enjoy him. I got to meet him. I got to meet Blake Rushholt, which was he was the heavyweight at the time. And of course, I wrestled heavyweight. So it was like a Christmas gift I had got, I think it was like sophomore year. So I got to go up there and see them, and I got to meet John, and I was starstruck. He's like, how you doing, son? I'm like, he's like, he looks at my mom. He's like, he doesn't talk. And she's like, he talks. He's starstruck. And I was like, I'm sorry, sir. He's like, he just chuckles, he's like, it's all right. You need anything else? I'm like, no, sir. Thank you. He signed my little ticket. I was so happy. I went home and took a little tack and stuck it on my wall. The 2 tickets signed by him and Jordan, got like just a blank wall. I got 2 tickets up there,
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you've been around it. So it's not like you're a stranger to it. So we answered that question for people. So leave him the fuck alone. He's not some dude who just jumped on the scene. All right. So, and if you don't worry about it, if you swear in here, you swear in here. It's okay. We're adults, right? And I think that's where Joe hasn't really told me to not fuel the haters, because he knows I'm 45 and like I'm tired of bullshit. So I just don't put up with a lot of crap. I just don't. Even with something, it's weird, especially with the social media stuff. Like I'm not triggered until I'm pushed so far, right? Like if I see it 30 times and it's the dumbest shit on the planet, I'm probably going to make a comment on it because I'm just tired of seeing it. Like, just shut up, just stop. But that's me, because I'm old, and that's probably why a lot of people don't really like me. And that's fine. I keep my circle small for a reason. But
see, I'm so new to the scene. I try to like there's so many times I type stuff out and I'm like, delete. Like, no,
I have. Same here, dude. It's probably in the thousands already this year, and we're just in January that I've done that. Like, type, delete.
Yeah,
never mind.
Like,
yeah.
I asked myself, I'm like, will I feel better if I say that? Like, no, not really. Like, there's even times like there was early on in the search of like the coaching and like different guys hitting the portal. I talked about it, or I would like try to be the guy like that, just put a little bit out, not too much, but just a little bit out. And then people come to you and you're like, you're a liar. And I'm like, what else can I do? Like, show you the conversations between me and this person, or
Nope.
like,
nope.
And I'm not gonna do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just because some guy that's just random numbers and no posts, you know what I'm saying, just gets on there and argues with people, you know what I'm saying? Like, it does me no service to get in there and argue with those folks, but it's hard though.
And I've said plenty of stuff in the past that I couldn't either back up or that I just blurted it out. I'll admit to it right now, and people can call me for it out on the rug later on. That's fine, but I've done it. I've made the mistakes of like just posting an emotion, like like rage posting. But I've kind of ended that. There's certain things that as I grow up, because in my 20s it have been way worse, but now in my 40s I'm just bitter. I'm over it. I want my kid to be in the next chapter so we can watch the cool college stuff. That's what I want to be.
No, for sure.
So I never really jumped on a college team before, as far as covering them and things like that. And you and I were kind of talking about numbers before, because I feel like that's part of it. But then kind of listening to other podcasts, kind of like what yours, like what you're doing, is you don't always have to have all the stats. Like, some people just like to hear about the duel itself, just because either A, couldn't watch it, or B, couldn't be there. Right. So you're basically just kind of doing a play-by-play, because a lot of times either you're there or you watch it. Right. So it's just kind of a little play-by-play, a quick synopsis of the duel. And then kind of your thoughts. Like I said, you and I kind of talk on emotion and how excited we were about someone, or we're kind of down because they didn't get this in a match, that kind of thing. So when you're kind of putting putting yourself in a match or duel, what are specific things that you like to look for when you're watching a duel? Do you have, like you said, when you do a show, you only have some like quick notes that you just kind of go off of? Are there things you're watching for a duel? You're just taking it all in?
So this year it's kind of different, because like in the years past, it's not been such like a skeptical, like a skeptical. It's like the fog machine. Yeah, it's just so awesome right now. So like the first couple ones, because I have season tickets, this is my first year being a season ticket holder. Nice. The way I was going into this is I thought this was going to be like, John Smith, Coleman, like the regular cast, that was my mindset going into this. And then everything changes and it's like, well, I'm still going to buy season tickets. I still want to be there. Like, getting David Taylor, I don't think anybody's mad by that. You know what I'm saying? Especially with fast forward to now. But yeah, like when I'm there, I'm kind of just taking it in, man. I'm interacting a lot. I feel like when I'm there is more of my opportunity to like interact with the guys, because I've been getting like some of the 34 club tickets, which is like right where the guys run out. One of the good, like, people that listen to the pod were like, hey, we can't always make it. We'd like for you, if you can't use them, find somebody else that uses them. So I've been able to enjoy that 2 times now, with Virginia Tech duel and then the Wyoming duel. So that was really cool. And yeah, being down there and like seeing the guys do their run-ins and like they're like, you're right there. Like, I'm the first person they see because I'm like right in the corner. Yeah. I'm interacting with David. I'm interacting with Thomas. Like I'm doing everything I can to just kind of just like, hey. And I've been wearing my little single shirt, like make sure they know like, hey, this is who I am. Because that was a big thing too, is like everybody's like, oh, we don't know who this is. Some people thought I was just different people from all over. Funny story, David Taylor's mom thought I was John Smith. She thought John Smith ran the low single page. And David Taylor's dad's like, no, there's no way. Like, John don't talk like that. You know what I'm saying? Right. This is obviously before I showed my face and everything like that. But just off the tweets, he didn't really think it was me or think it was John. But yeah, I mean, awesome. I'm really just taking everything in. And I mean, I still do. There is certain things I do look for. Like if I try to get a good picture of like David one-on-one with one of the guys before they come out, I like to share that kind of stuff, because that's the kind of stuff you can't see on TV. If you watch the duel, I can tell you the score later. I can tell you what I think about it. I can tell you kind of when I'm like going through the review in the pod, I'm just kind of like thinking back on the match. Like, what was that like for me? Kind of just put myself back into that, where I was and what I was doing during the match, So I'm not so much into my phone. I'm really just taking it all in and enjoying it and just, building those relationships with everybody, the recruits. Sometimes, I got to meet all those guys coming in from a court. That was cool. You get to meet a lot of cool people, and that's the fun part of this.
It's funny you mention that because last night there's a duel between my son's team and then Nina, which is just down the road from us. It was a high school duel, and there's a kid on there that's ranked number 8 in the country at 157, I think it is, and then Liam is like number 16 at 165, right? And they could have wrestled because this other kid had been wrestling at 175 for duels, and then he dropped down to 165 for stuff, right? So there's a guy that ranks, and he's like, "Hey, is this going to go down tonight?" I was like, "I couldn't tell you." I was like, "I know Liam wrestles 175 regardless. Doesn't matter which duel it is. He's not cutting weight. He just wants to relax and kind of, because he wrestled 190 actually that night too. It was just weird." But he was like, "Oh, is anybody streaming it?" And I said, "Well, no, unfortunately, not this one. I'm pretty sure our team doesn't necessarily like outside people in. It's very Penn State-ish when it comes to how open our team is with stuff." It's kind of strange, but I get it. I understand, the concept behind it. So I respect that kind of thing. But they're asking if someone was streaming it. And I said, no, not this one. They're like, well, that's kind of crazy. And he goes, I'm surprised someone's not streaming it on their phone. And I was about to pick my phone up and I was like, nah, dude, like I'm here watching a duel. Like I'm not gonna and then I'm looking around. And I'm like, that's what everybody else is here doing. Like they're here watching. Yeah. They're taking a photo is one thing, but then they'll sit there and stream like a duel or whatever, or like a match in a duel. So it was just kind of like, it was funny that you mentioned that because taking it in is important. Because to me, being at something that's like that is there's a lot of energy, especially with what you guys have now. The crowd, the intensity is probably got to be a little more nowadays than it was back in the day in the early 2000s and stuff like that. But what about when you're kind of in between or whatnot? Are you kind of out in the crowd, kind of talking to people too, like kind of seeing who might be milling around in between a match or something? When you hit 157, you get the break. Are you out kind of talking to people out then too?
Yeah. So we actually,
Nice.
I think we take a break. Like I think it's after 165. It could be before. I thought it was after, but I don't know. They kind of do it a little bit different. But yeah, for sure. I'm talking, I'm interacting. I'm like, hey, I'm Thomas. Nice. This is me. Let me see what I can do with you. Let me see if we can, because I have like some guys that want to do some interviews too, some guys on the team. But I've told them that I want them to focus on what they're doing. Cause like, I don't know exactly how David feels about all that. But I always try to stay on just thinking of the athlete, like I don't want to do something with somebody and then the next day or that night they get a call from David like, hey, and I don't know if he's like that. I honestly don't know. I've had some interactions with him as well. I actually even got him a low single shirt. So that's going to be fun. I can't wait till he pops out with that. I know people are going to think that's awesome. I cannot wait. But yeah, I just try to interact with everybody. Just put eyes on anybody, and what's even the coolest now is that like I said, these guys have only seen my face, consecutively now this whole year. Cause otherwise than that, I was just sitting up in the crowd, when I would come and I just wouldn't interact. I'd just watch and then leave. Yeah. Well now like guys will see me and they can spot me in a crowd, and I think that's awesome, so I do enjoy that. Like if I got any return out of this, it's just, just knowing some more of the athletes and just, having good interactions with them and then friendships with them is just, it's cool. It's definitely cool.
For sure. And, and that's been the big thing. I mean, I've interviewed Mark Schultz. I've interviewed Gary Mayab, all that stuff. And being able to get to know these guys, like this is kind of how it started for me. I was at wrestling tournaments with my kid, right? These people would just be there signing stuff, doing whatever, things like that. And then kind of like you and I just having a conversation. Comedy got me into that. I would just start talking to people. I was talking to Dan Gable at a tournament one time for like 30 minutes. Maybe that's my fault, but he was talking too. He was willing to go the mile. So I was like, well, this would be interesting, and just kind of talking and getting into it. And then talking to athletes was even more engaging because it was helping me kind of find things out for my kid too. Like, how are you doing this? How do you do this? And I get Frank Jasper, I get Shoot On, talking to him about nutrition. So it's really been beneficial, not just for me, but also kind of helping my kid out. But it's getting more information that I remember as a kid, we were not talking about. That we weren't putting in front of parents, and letting coaches see this kind of stuff. It's not like I'm teaching coaches anything, but as far as putting something out there that is consumable and helping people, and at the same time entertaining, right? I mean, again, the stories and things that you're talking about, I wasn't at an Oklahoma State duel, so you're telling me something that I never saw. So that's, again, it's really fun to be able to go down the road and be able to follow these through the years and then go back and be like, I wonder what it was like. Cause like I was just talking about 1920 stats from Virginia wrestling, like, holy cow, Like I'm digging in. But with the Oklahoma State gig, when did you live in Oklahoma still when all this was going down with the coaching change?
No. So I've
No.
been I've been in Kansas the last like 24, 25 years.
Oh man, that long. You didn't say I thought it was like somewhere you just moved recently.
No, yeah.
Oh.
I went to high school here, everything, yeah.
Oh, okay. So where what town in Kansas?
In Wichita.
Okay, all right. We won't tell your address. That's fine. But as far as so you're in Wichita. I was actually a funny story for further down the road, but Wichita's a nice little town.
Yeah.
Where did you did you always watch Oklahoma State, or did you take a break? Were you kind of doing other things?
No, always.
Always.
Back then I could only listen to it on the radio though.
Yeah.
There wasn't all these streaming services and stuff. Yeah. So I would, there's a 90, like it's Hot 93.7 or something like that. Rex.
Yeah.
He's the Oklahoma State guy. He gets on there and he would talk through every duel live.
Nice.
And that's how I would listen. And I was, and obviously like a lot of duels are on Sundays and stuff like that. And I was involved in church and different stuff like that.
Sure.
Doing like bus ministry, which is like going and picking up kids and stuff like that. Well, I would do that still. I'm still dedicated to my ministry, but I'm got my headphones in. I'm like in the back of the bus as we're dropping kids off. I'm like, yes, because I've been involved with that since I was young. And but yeah, so I always consumed it as much as I could. A lot of times, like especially like NCAAs and stuff like that. Like sometimes the finals, would air like on ESPN or something, but sometimes you'd have to catch them like maybe 1 a.m, whenever I could and as much as I could, even if it was the next day. That's how I would consume it as much. But as far as Oklahoma State ones, definitely I would like radio. That was my biggest thing, just listening to a radio. So I was dedicated to listening. I was dedicating to like consuming it any way that I could.
Nice. And honestly, there's there's something to be said for that's loyalty. Like I've never been a Wisconsin like sports fan unless it was like where my kids are going to school. I just never I was never a Badger fan. I was never a Brewer fan. I was never a Packer fan. I'm a Steelers fan. I'm a Red Sox fan, and I'm a wherever my kids going to college fan. That's right.
I'm a Yankees fan.
Oh,
yeah. All right. All right. Thanks everybody for coming. That's a wrap.
We'll have to continue that on somewhere. That'll be fun because I always like that little rivalry with those guys. But so with what we do, we were talking about this. There comes a little bit of a responsibility, right? We were talking about the OSU kind of change and just real briefly, but David coming in and in the beginning of all that, there's obviously rumors spreading around, right? There's we know Coleman Scott's getting the job. Well, we don't know. Now there's talks about someone else. Were you kind of back and forth with people when all that was going on? What was the buzz by you? Obviously you have people that you talk to, and we all have our guys, right? Mm-hmm. So was there a buzz kind of going around before things started going on the internet about David?
No. Well,
no.
It's kind of hard for me to say because that was kind of me kind of breaking into everything. That's how quick things have moved for me. Is back then I didn't really have a source or sources. I had a couple people, but kind of like they're just kind of feeding me the scuttlebutt from Stillwater. You know what I'm saying? There's this is what we're hearing. This is what we're hearing. I'm also like on the 34 and counting forum, which is like the big for message board for Oklahoma State, and that's kind of where I started hearing it. And I was like, bro, there's no way. Like David Taylor. I'm like, my first question was like, David Taylor who? Like, you're not talking about Penn State David Taylor. Like who's? I'm like, I'm sitting here like questioning myself. Like I don't remember a David Taylor. Like it did not even cross my mind that we could really hire somebody outside of the family. Like it's kind of like a mafia. Once you're in, you're in. You know what I'm saying?
You're in.
Like that one meme, it's like you don't ask about family business, So when I first started hearing about that, I didn't really know, and like I told you before we started, like I was a Coleman guy, but that's just because like not like I dislike David, it's just we keep it in the family, and in my mind, you bring a guy over to be the assistant, you just assume, hey, that's, not a lot of head coaches step down without thinking like, oh, okay, I figured in a couple years. And that's another thing. I didn't think John was going to retire. That was mind blowing to me. I knew there might be I knew he always wanted to leave the program in a better way. Like not 20th at NCAAs or whatever. He wanted it to be left in a positive way for somebody. So they weren't just taking over just, what the scraps or whatever. But Yeah, I totally was a Coleman Scott guy, man, and I was endorsing that, and then once David became the guy, I just, like again, like I said earlier, like it's not like I was like in my room crying, like, oh my gosh, how could we bring in, maybe the possible next best coaching guy, like you're just like, okay, like I may not have got the guy that was in the family, but you're not like nobody's gonna cry that they got Phil Jackson. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody's mad about that. No, nobody's mad. So it was an interesting time. Everybody has their feelings. Everybody was like, all of us feel like none of us are Coleman Scott, but we were attached to him, like he was our family. He chose us. So we choose you. If you choose us, we're going to always choose you. And that's the brand. Like the loyal and true is not just a saying, that's why when a guy transfers out, not so much in wrestling, but like a lot in like a football guy transfers out. Oh man, guy transfers to OU, we take that to heart. It's like your family, like spitting in your face. That's like my sister walking in and telling me she wants nothing to do with me. I'm like, what's going on here? Like, no way, you don't do that. But that's how it was. Like everything was kind of chaos. Everything was kind of, at least for me, because I'm like hitting up everybody, like, hey, you don't know me, but I want to know this, and then some people are like, yeah, we don't know you, buddy. We're not telling you nothing. And then, but also some people that wouldn't talk to me before now talk to me now because they realize, I can, keep some stuff under wraps, or I can, hear something and not just go out and report it. Cause that doesn't benefit me in any way.
Yeah. And it's funny you mention that just because all the stuff, obviously that's kind of swirling around about Crookham right now with, rumors that go, but and here's the thing though, is that people don't understand that sometimes some people do hear the correct thing, right? Like whether you want to believe it or not, whether you like the news or not is irrelevant. It doesn't matter whether you like it or not. If it's something, and I think that's the biggest thing for us is like confirming, right?
Mm.
I want to say something, but hold on. I'm going to ask this guy because I know he'll know, and I know this guy will know, right? I always do that. That is first and foremost the thing that I do because I have a son that's in this game, right? I wouldn't want something like that to go down for him, right? But if it was something stupid and he did something wrong, guess what? Then sometimes you pay the price for that shit because it passes around. It's what happens.
Yeah.
So I was a Coleman Scott guy as well. I mean, all the way through, even at NC, like I was like, he's gonna be there forever. I was actually kind of telling Liam, I was like, hey, maybe look at North Carolina, just kind of see what's going on there because we took a visit. Keaton Cleaver was going there, and Coleman met Coleman Scott. He got to meet Ramos, stuff like that. And he was probably 14 at the time. I think we were at Super 32, and then I was just kind of like, yeah, he's going to be the next guy. Like, but I didn't understand why he left North Carolina. That confused me. So I wanted to know a little bit more. Why wouldn't he be at North Carolina, right? So I got information, but you put information out and it's not necessarily need to be out there. I think there's guys that could learn lessons from that. Whether it's true or not, sometimes there's information that shouldn't be out there. But at the same point, though, too, there are guys that are out there that have been putting info out like that for a long time. They've gotten some stuff right. They've gotten some stuff wrong, and they're not going to stop what they're doing. Like that's just what they do because we're in a world of clicks and likes, right? Yeah. We're in a world of getting post engagements and things like that. And I think that's why you and I are kind of like, we're not getting paid for this, right? We're doing this because we love doing this kind of thing. We love the sport and what it's done for us and what it's given back to us, just kind of going to a duel and it's exciting, right? It's a different sport. It's not like going to a football game. So there's a respect factor out there. And I first and foremost, from youth to high school to college, I respect every athlete that's out there. There's no doubt that I will never, ever take away from any of the athletes that are out there ever, right? Those guys are still figuring life out while they're athletes, while they're students. They got a lot of shit going on. Some of them are going to make some screw ups, but they're still kind of, in my eyes, are kids, right? They're still figuring it out.
For sure.
Coaches, in my eyes, are a little more open to that kind of scrutinizing stuff, right? Because you're an adult now, it's a job, it's a business. And business gets in the way sometimes of the reality of what we put out there, right? So I think sometimes with what you're putting out, like, again, it's emotion. You went to a duel, you're like, man, I really like this guy. I would have liked to see him, win, but he kind of did this. You're basing it off of facts because you saw something, right? Now, all this stuff that kind of whirls around when it comes to guys moving and going to different schools, it's not hard to screw that up, but it's also, I think it's a little bit easier to just be like, oh, okay, whatever, kind of blow it off, right? Because I think a lot of people take to that. They're obviously with Mr. Minio. There are a lot of people already commenting, being mean to him, that kind of thing. And I think I fell into that trap too when it was someone that you cared about, or like that, like an athlete or coach or something that you kind of cared about. Like it was one of your favorites, and all of a sudden you see him talking shit about him. You're like, hey man, how do you know that kind of thing? Yeah. Maybe he does. Maybe he heard something. Maybe someone heard something that you didn't hear,
Well, that's the thing. Everybody tried to get so mad at him because he was one of the first people to talk about David coming to Oklahoma State.
Sure.
He was one of the first people. And Flo went on there, and CP, he's like,
floated up.
I know David. He's not going. As of last night, he's not going. And then guess what happens? So here's my running rule: is if Flo goes out of their way to discredit it, there's some truth to it. That's true. That's my personal opinion, because again, Christian sat on there like he was all confident, and he's like, no, David's not going there. He's not. Ben's like, oh, I'm gonna, Ben Askren tweeted like, oh, I'm gonna call out. I'm gonna say that he is going, and then CP's like retweeting that like, no, he's not gonna go. He's not gonna go. He's like making a singular video like breaking down everything because he wanted to be the guy like, hey, I know more than you, and he's like, they met with David. David doesn't want to go. This, that. And then the next morning he's like, oh, they must have upped their offer and did this. And I'm not saying that didn't happen, but that's just one thing I always think of. They literally told us that David was not coming. Christian said that. And everybody crucified Pat for that. But that one, like I said, so when Flo goes out of their way to discredit it, I tend to lean that it's true. Hopefully, hopefully Crookham can come back, but
hopefully,
from what it sounds like, it may not be so. And who knows? Maybe they're trying to get, like how you go see one doctor and you're like, okay, well, you seen your doctor, come see our doctor. It may be a situation like that. I don't really know, but
so I'm finding it kind of fishy though. There's been a couple guys now that they're foregoing the season. So I'm wondering if this has anything to do with this new 5th year that guys are allowed to get. I don't know all NCAA rules, so I'm going to pause and just say, look, I don't know all the rules, but would they be able to redshirt this year and come back and get that extra year because of that new rule?
Well, I don't. So from what I understand, again, like you, I don't know 100%. It's more like in the weeds type stuff. But from what I understand is that's not a thing yet, because even some of the JUCO stuff, even though they're like moving forward with that, I don't know if that's like taking place this season. Like it may take a year for that to actually go in place.
Yeah, I'm talking next season. So like if they're putting everything on their season on pause to reinstate for the next year, does that? I mean, that's why I was just looking. I was like, why are all these guys like really good guys? Yeah. Like guys who are potentially going to be All-Americans, maybe win it, like are forfeiting. They're not forfeiting, but they're redshirting or whatever, going out for the year. Like, what the hell's going on here? Maybe injuries, maybe a little beat up. Obviously we don't know the whole story. Someone might be saying just need to take a break kind of thing, and that's their story. But it just seems weird that this new rule came out. I was like, a minute, is there something wrong with this?
And with the med shirt, you can wrestle half the season, and then. Yeah. Now, if you don't wrestle into January, even if you do wrestle a little bit into January, it's kind of just so much in the air. So it's like you could wrestle half a season and it technically doesn't count against you, because if you're hurt. Now, obviously, like I don't think anybody's wrestling half a season and they're like, you know what? If you're good, like Crookham, I don't see Crookham like, you know what? Because he's pretty much the favorite to win 133.
Correct.
So I don't see anywhere where it benefits him to be like, you know what? I think I need another year under my belt. So. But it is very interesting. The 5 years could be a possibility. The NCAA is going to do whatever they can to keep hold of these kids and make the most money they can. Because, like when they made those rules, they weren't thinking about wrestling. They were thinking about football.
Absolutely not. You know what I mean? Shit about wrestling, dude. Absolutely not.
If they could have had 5 playing years of Joe Burrow, they would have. You know what I mean? So
yeah, there's probably those little hidden schools that are out there. There's probably a couple bigger schools too that actually have like an AD that loves wrestling, that is familiar with wrestling, that knows they want to keep it around. But this whole, we'll dive into it, that whole NCAA thing that's going on, man. Like, we're going to be looking at possible cuts. They're looking at trying to make these kids like employees of the school. You know how bad that's going to be? Someone was talking about unions and shit too. Like, there's absolutely no freaking way. Get out of here.
Well, because right now the universities are at the loss, because a kid can you could tell a kid, you could punish a kid like, hey, man, you can't be doing that. That kid could show up to whoever's door, up to the school, and they can be enrolled, or like That's the thing. So I think they want to have some kind. The NCAA for so long had a leverage over kids, especially with like how it used to be, where if you transferred, you had to sit out a year. Well, nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to do that, you know.
Yeah.
But if there's an pop, like you can literally like I could wrestle here first semester, and then I could just be like, you know what, I'm done with this, and I could just show up in Norman, and it's like, oh, I paid my own fees, and I go here now. It's like, oh, okay, you paid your own fees, and you go here now, okay, you know. But nobody can say anything, and nobody can call it out. But now they're wanting to put it back on the kids, and now they want to lock them into contracts and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
You know, it's not called National Letter of Intent anymore. You know, they changed the name of it. Everything's changing before my kid gets into college, and it's probably still going to change even more before that. Like, I get that there needed to be some stability. We can all thank Johnny Manziel for this, by the way, just so everybody's aware of this. This whole NIL thing is because some dirty football player. So these kids are kind of getting cornered into a spot. I mean, that's why Liam made the decision he made based off of him liking the school, but we also had some urgency, you know, with the roster cuts and stuff like that, because you just don't know, you know, who's going to be there. You know, like looking at 165 of Virginia. Yeah, there's a bunch of kids there, but fingers crossed once those cuts come down that they're still going to want them there, you know, that kind of thing. So it was kind of a scary situation, just kind of knowing that there wasn't really time to like over evaluate, you know, to kind of figure out where to go. And I can only imagine someone who doesn't know what the hell is going on in the scope of things, because we're literally asking these coaches, hey, do you know what's going on with, you know, with the school and you know, possibly talking just because at that point it's just talks about getting rid of any sports or how wrestling is going to get treated. You guys are going to lose scholarships. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, what?
Yeah, they don't even know.
You guys don't know this shit. And I was talking to a couple other guys, and they're just like, yeah, the athletic directors, like, that's the like last thing they do is tell those guys stuff like as it's about to hit the floor. Like, they don't let them know ahead of time about anything. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And then I become a soccer coach and I see it all. I'm just like, we are told nothing. We're literally the last ones to find out stuff. So talking to these coaches, and I'm seeing the reactions on their faces, and I'm like, this is crazy. Like, we're making a decision that they don't even know that we have to make. So that, like, their planning of how they want to do things is probably thrown off now because of whatever the school needs to do. So it's a very precarious time to be able to, as a kid, to be coming into college sports, because I think everybody's going to be expecting $1 million payoff. And I think once the future shows up, it's not going to be happening anymore, you know?
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing. Like you're saying, everybody thinks, and that's real tough, is I don't know if you see many like other sports stuff, but there's the coach for, I believe it's UCLA, a basketball coach.
Okay.
He's just so fed up with his players that he came out and he's like, yeah, he goes, these kids, they all think that they're worth all this money. He goes, and they don't got the talent for all this money. He goes like, they don't. You know, and that's what's crazy. And that's what's hard, is because like you have to tell a kid that. And it's like, you know what? I don't want to kill the kid's the dreams. But at the same time, you know, you got a kid that maybe placed a couple times, like maybe you placed all 4 years in state, never won it, but you placed. And then now you're going to a school and the school really wants you. And it's like, okay, well, I won 150,000. They're like, okay, well, hold on, you know, like, well, hold on. I'm not saying we, you know, like, we believe in our system. We believe in pushing. We believe that we can get you to where you need to go. But like, then next year you ask for 250,000, and like that's just not realistic. Like, some of these guys, not so much in wrestling, but like these football guys, some of those guys are like, it's more lucrative to stay in college than it is to go and play in the NFL. Correct. Like, there's guys making more money, like Shedeur Sanders. I don't quote me on it, but I'm confident he makes more money than, like, say, Brock Purdy, who was like who was like 7th round pick, missed, you know, the last pick. You know what I mean? And that's crazy. Yeah. And that's crazy because he's a starting quarterback. Now, he may not start for every NFL team, but he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. Yep. And you got Deion Sanders' son, who's making a lot of more money than him, and that dude is playing in Super Bowl. Played in the Super Bowl. You know, that's just crazy.
He broke records. Broke records, dude. Yeah. So I think with a lot of what is in college wrestling and the excitement that's going on now, I feel like we came to a peak, and it almost feels like now with this NCAA stuff, like, do we want to keep pomp and circumstance, or do we just want to get back to dirty, gritty kind of wrestling again and not worry about all the fancy shit, because it costs a lot of money, right? Yeah. And let's face it, wrestling doesn't bring in money. Wrestling brings in I think the top schools are like around $1 million or $2 million.
We don't do it any favors.
No, correct. And we're talking Penn State. We're talking one of the top teams in the country doesn't bring in that much money. No, it's not their fault. We're just a small sport, right? Like we feel like it's huge because we're surrounded by it. Like we put it around us all the time, but in the grand scheme of things, we're very small chasm, and we're going to be looked at like an anthill when everything comes down to the dollars and cents. And that's why hopefully we do. And there are quite a few different athletic directors I've seen making the argument like we need to look at this because we don't want to be getting rid of these sports. We don't want to have to drop, sports, especially the Olympic sports, things like that. So it's not like everybody out there, every AD out there is like against wrestling, but it's a business. Again, NCAA is a business. College sports is a business. So you have to pay bills in college and you have to justify things. Virginia just built a brand new, beautiful facility out there. I mean, awesome. So I'm assuming that's not going anywhere, they just invested in that much money in it. So I'm really, really positive that they're not going to go anywhere with it. Now, I can't say the same for like I don't know, like a Purdue or, things like that. That does it justify a football team paying for that? Because that's what it is. It's these football teams and basketball teams that really pay the bills because, let's face it, those are the big time sports. So
for sure.
With that being said, with Oklahoma being such a wrestling school, wrestling state, Oklahoma State is, what do you think? Have you guys heard any kind of grumblings around Oklahoma ever about, man, we hope this doesn't come down the pipe because we think wrestling could go away? Given your history, right? Yeah. Have you guys heard anything like that around your area?
Not really. I was kind of, as you were like explaining it, I was kind of thinking like, I never thought about this before, but like, I'm kind of like spoiled, like being an Oklahoma State fan, you're kind of spoiled, like, because like, I don't see a world where there's not wrestling at Oklahoma State. Now, obviously things change, but I just think that even if it became like, cause I heard that people fear that one day this all may just be a club thing. Everybody just does clubs. There's no official team. But even if that was like what happens to the whole all of college wrestling, Oklahoma State would be in a lot better situations than 95% of everybody else because people love wrestling. And we have a good AD too. Everybody was kind of mad at him. I got to see him at the Virginia Tech one, and I went over and I was like, hey, I'm the low single guy. He goes, oh, I know who you are. And I was like, okay, well, thank you. That means a lot. And I'm like, I was like, I know you took a lot of flack for bringing in David. I said, I know people didn't necessarily like, again, it was never against David. It's just that we don't hire outside the family, especially after 33 years of John Smith.
Yeah, no shit, right?
So especially, and then, like I said, everybody had the same assumption that I did. Oh, Coleman's stepping down from NC and coming here. Oh, well, he must be getting the job in a couple years or a year or whatever it may be.
Right.
But our AD cares about wrestling. He went to Oklahoma State. He apparently had a really good relationship with John, and that helps. When you have
for sure.
I think if it wasn't for John Smith, I don't know what wrestling in Oklahoma would look like. He's like an icon, man, everywhere. Obviously, everywhere in the United States, even outside the United States, he's an icon. But in Oklahoma, man, he's the bee's knees, as I like to say. You know what I'm saying? Like he's the milk and the honey. You know what I mean? And like he has time for everybody. I don't know one person that's ever been like big time by him. Like, oh, he doesn't have time for you. You know what I'm saying? Like kids, women, children. It does not matter. Like he will stop. He'll give you a story. He'll ask you.
That's awesome.
Like, so many times, like when I'd see him, he's like, how's the family? Like, that's crazy. Like, you don't even know my family, but you're asking. Like, it's like,
that's cool.
So I think he really set a precedent in all of the state. But yeah, we're definitely lucky because I don't ever see, especially now. Even before I didn't see it ever happening, but now it's like even getting more attention and people are wanting to be in Stillwater. As you see, we're having MMA guys come in here, UFC guys. We got Joey McKenna training this weekend. Nice. I don't know how long he's staying, but he's here for a bit. Like that's huge, man. And I'm not saying that like the old stuff didn't have guys coming in, but it wasn't quite like this. I don't remember us just bringing in a UFC guy that doesn't even have any connections to. Like, he's never went to Oklahoma State. That guy's never been.
That's where you have Penn State in your room now. That's you guys are Penn, Oklahoma State. That's exactly what you guys are.
No, sir. I'll take that Boston Red Sox talk, but I will not take that. Okay. Hey, just like David Just like David said, we are not trying to be the second Oklahoma State or the second Penn State. We are trying to remind people who we are here.
So that's it. Yeah, Kakana State. No, but it's funny you mention that, because how do you remove so much of what Penn State history David has with himself, like just the training, the competition, the way things were in the room? Like, they only play one song in that room all practice. They don't change the music.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. I'm curious to see, like, if he brought that to that room, you got a Penn Oklahoma State room. No, he's the magic man, right? He's bringing magic.
From my experience, they get to some of the, like, when I got to go into one practice, and
oh, nice.
Some of the guys got to pick the music, so maybe that's something, I don't know.
Maybe different. Maybe he didn't like the one song theory. I would have been annoyed by it as well. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not a one song guy.
Only one song we allowed to be played on repeat is "Friends in Low Places," Garth Brooks. Okay, another Oklahoma State alumni. Okay,
don't make me pull out my country line dance and my Texas two-step shit, because I did that when I was a kid. I got forced to do that stuff, man. It's scary.
Oh yeah, me too.
Back in the 1900s, you know. Yeah, we can say that now. Back in the 1900s. But,
that's crazy.
So when you go, like, now, kind of going forward, what kind of plans do you have to, like, I mean, obviously you're just kind of getting used to the podcast thing and kind of doing that. Do you have plans to expand, to kind of do more? Like, what are some of your ideas that you have for the future?
I'm glad you asked. We didn't even set this up, but I'm so glad you asked. So I actually have been working on quite a bit now. Obviously, Joe did the website.
Yep.
He's so cool. He literally hit me up. It's like, hey man, he's like, do you have a website? And I was like, no. I was like, and be honest with you, Joe, I was like, even if I did, I wouldn't know what to do with it. He's like, all right, give me a second. I'm like, okay. I'm thinking he's gonna, like, tell me how to do it, you know? And he's like, hey, send me some, tell me, like, he's like, if I wasn't a listener, how would you explain the pod to me? So I did, typed it all out in a paragraph. He's like, all right, cool. Literally in 14 minutes, he sends me a link, like, here you go, man. And I'm like, what is this? I'm like, okay. I click it open. It's a whole thing. And I'm like literally, like, flabbergasted, like, no way. Like, and he's like, and I'm like, dude, thank you so much. Like, I've probably thanked him like a million times just in the few days that it's been live. And he's like, dude, I literally do that all day. He's like, it took me 15 minutes. And I'm like, okay, but I couldn't do that in 15 days. Like, I am not tech savvy like that. Like I said, my mic didn't work, and it's because I didn't press a button on the computer. That
shit happens, man.
Even though I'm 30, I have an old spirit. Like, I like things just the way I like them. I don't like to go out of my comfort zone. But as far as, like, things I have coming, I'm working on doing a few different things. So I'm going to be doing kind of like similar to, I've been talking to a lot of podcast guys. Justin Bash, he kind of like gave me some guidance of, like, different things, like graphics. Because I've noticed that, like, if I put a tweet out, I could put a tweet out that says Dayton Fix wins via Tech Fall, and that's going to get some, good traction. It's going to get 36 likes, something like that. But if I put a graphic with it, even if it's just a simple picture that I just grabbed off the internet, it gets more traction because it's visually appealing to them. So I've noticed that. So he's given me that. So I actually have that. I actually did that last night. We've been real bad snow here, like 6 to 8 inches. So we haven't been, obviously, like I said, I do pest control, so I can't really get out and work much this week.
Yeah, pests don't really go around much in the snow either, so you're good.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially the ones down by you.
Yeah, ain't much spiders and stuff outside, you know what I'm saying?
No, man. No, the big reset button, really, is what that is.
So I got the graphics. I got that up and running. I literally just will have to, I got everything ready for that. I'll literally just have to add whatever the writing may be, like whoever wins, how they won, and then I'll add a picture to it. So I'm really excited for that to be happening. The first time I'll probably get to use that is when Dayton and Zahid go to Croatia at the beginning of February for that ranking tournament.
Was that Zagreb, the first or something like that?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Zagreb, yeah. Nice.
So I'm looking forward to dropping that. And then I've also been working on apparel, shirts, sweatshirts. Shout out to Joe again. I was asking him, like, hey man, like, what do you think the best way to do this is? And he's like, don't go buy shirts in bulk. And I'm like, okay. I had a buddy KP. He told me the same thing. He's like, I did it for work. He's like, and it just backfired on me. He's like, now you're going to be doing it like, for people. And he's like, you'll get weird sizes. And that's what Joe told me too. You'll get like, you'll run out of what you need and you'll have just a whole bunch of surplus of what you don't need. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So I got that. I actually going to be ordering one of the shirts because like once you set it up, they'll send you sample shirts. Because I was the one of those place I was doing it here. It was going to be hard, especially like if you don't go to the actual duels. Like for anybody out of the state, I didn't really know how I was going to be like continually be able to like send it out to them. Obviously, I can go to UPS or whatever every day, but that could be difficult if I get a bigger, request form than I anticipate. So I got that going. That should be dropping. I don't know if it's going to be this month or not. I'm kind of like I said, I'm kind of feeling that situation out. Sure. But I'm looking forward to doing that. And then the YouTube is still a possibility. Like doing this right here, this helps. I'm going to be doing that Oklahoma State podcast, this all sports one. I'll be doing that one tomorrow. So these opportunities help me get more comfortable with it too. Help me kind of fill the process out. So really it's endless. I mean, I want to do interviews. I mean, eventually I would like to get David on here. That's a big ask, I know, but I mean, I've already started the connection with him. You know what I mean? Yeah. And going back real quick to what you said about the Penn, like being Penn State in Oklahoma State, if you'd have told me a few years ago, hey, John Smith's going to retire, I probably would have laughed because that's the only coach I've ever known. Right. And then second, I would have said, okay, well, who's the coach? And you would have said, oh, a Penn State and an Iowa Hawkeye. I would have said, okay.
Dude, as soon as Gilman went to Penn State, I wrote him off. He went to Penn State. I was like, "You're dead to me. You are dead."
Well, I remember
that's the fun part. We have fun with that, right?
The day he got announced, everybody dropped that one video of him. They're like, well, "What are you doing?" He's like, "You don't turn your back to these guys."
Yeah. I'll see sitting sideways. He goes, "You never know. They might come behind you and try to take out your legs or something. You don't know." Like, this dude's crazy.
He's right there on live camera. They're gonna take your knees out. But he's such a cool guy. Like that's another one of those guys that when I got to see him at the tailgate, but he was like holding his baby, and like I'm super respectful. I have young children. Totally. My daughters are 4 and 2. Yep. And so I did not approach him. I did not. Later on at the tailgate, he came by again. I was like, hey, I wanted to talk to you earlier. I was like, but you had your daughter, I was like, I didn't want to, invade your guys' private space. And he's like, hey, he's like, he's like, hey, thank you for that. And I was like, not a problem. I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm the low single. Everybody like chin drops. Like, you're the low single? Because for the longest time, I think people thought I was like a burner account. I had somebody message me like, I know you're Chris Perry. I'm like, bro, what? Like, no, not Chris Perry. Like, what? Because even sometimes I was like I was saying things like when Christian Carroll first hit the portal, I was like, oh, sounds like he's going to go to Iowa State. That was the one thing I kind of hinted at earlier, that like I said that Christian Carroll was going to go to, like, as soon as he hit the portal, I said that because that was what I was told. Yeah. Like, hey, he's probably going to go there because they want to have Chris Perry over there. I dropped that. Bro, so many people like, you're a liar, don't badmouth, like, wow.
Dude, wow. And that's the other thing too, is like when you know that you have correct information, don't let someone else bully you into telling you that it's wrong, right?
Yeah.
It's because they either A, they didn't come out with it first, or B, they think it's disrespectful. That a lot of times there is certain information you shouldn't come out with. But 9 chances out of 10, when someone's just transferring, unless you're saying they're transferring because there's not enough cocaine at the university, I mean, that's an idiotic statement, right? But if you're saying he's transferring, I think he's going here. Dude, that's reckless. Shut up. Take your comment somewhere else. I was speculating he's going somewhere. Yeah. So many people, and this is the thing. So I got into it, the little thing and this wasn't about saying someone was something, but like Aaron Rodgers was all over the internet. It was just replays of him throwing bombs, right? Like just throwing Hail Marys to end zones. And everybody's like, oh, Aaron Rodgers, the greatest quarterback on the planet. And I'm like, hey, what about the receiver catching it in the end zone? What about that dude that just jumped up 3 feet in the air around another 7 other guys and caught the ball? What are you saying? Aaron's not a good enough quarterback? I'm like, no, I'm not saying that. Well, because I didn't play in the NFL, now I can't make a comment about people just dropping their jaw over Aaron Rodgers. Get out of here. I played semi-pro soccer, so that to me that's enough. I can piss and moan about all the shit I want. But because you say something that they didn't like or they thought was disrespectful, but is true because you confirm it, I ignore those people. Just like you've been doing. Completely ignore them because they're just upset because someone said something that they didn't like or that they wouldn't have said. I'm not you. piss off. Go over there and do your thing. It's great. And again, it was something like you said, oh, I think he's going here. Harm? Where's the harm? Calm down.
Yeah. There was no harm. No,
folks.
I did he went into the portal like he was allowed to, you know what I'm saying? Like there was nothing sketchy about it. I didn't say, hey, they tampered him. I just said, hey, sounds like he's going there with a former coach. And then even some people jumped on there and was like, how dare you say he's leaving with Coleman? I'm like, well, that's not the coach I'm even talking about, but okay. Like, again, I'm not arguing with you. I put it out there. You consume it, you chew it up. You have it. You take it however you want to take it, but there was not, like you said, nothing malicious. Just saying, hey, this is what I'm hearing. Like I said, that page is for the people, by the people. I'm not going to post anything that's going to harm anybody, but saying, hey, he sounds like he's going here with this guy. Yeah. Listen, that didn't harm nobody at all, you know?
Calm down, man. So you got some good stuff coming up in the future, man. I know that there's obviously always going to be a lot of stuff going in, obviously during the season, but do you plan on doing are you going to cover, talk about guys in the off season too, and they're wrestling that, because you're talking about Zagreb, things like that. So you're going to continue that coverage kind of in the off season too?
Yeah, I actually really hope I can really dive into some more of the stuff that I want to do during the off season, interviews and stuff with some of the guys, because I've had some guys reach out. I've reached out to some guys too, and they want to do stuff, but like I was telling you before, I kind of want to keep the season. Like one of my favorite sayings is keeping the main thing the main thing. So the main thing for them right now is season. I don't want to get them on. I don't want them to say anything that they shouldn't say, or this or that. I want to keep it somewhere where they can feel safe, but they can also come on here and just, shoot the shit. And we're just in here talking, you know what I'm saying? Like I may have somebody from the team on, but we may sit there and talk for an hour about, a hobby that we both had that we just, found out during that episode.
For sure. Yeah.
So I'm definitely looking forward to like branching out and doing some more stuff with the team. Hopefully, obviously this is all just what I'm aspiring. Like I said, I'd hope to eventually have David on here. I'd like to have all the coaches on here. I mean, I have some pretty good conversations or like interactions with some guys, like David's cameraman Dan. He's so cool. He's probably one of the coolest dudes. When I first told him, when I met him and I'm like, hey, I'm the low single, his chin like dropped. He's like, no way. And I was like, yeah, bro. So he's like one of my favorite guys. I didn't know him before. Obviously he's one of my favorite guys. I'd like to have Gilman on. Obviously we share a name. We're both named Thomas. So we're brothers from another mother. He don't even know it. Yeah. Even though he's a Hawkeye, we'll take it. But like Pearsall, I really enjoy him. He's been good to me. He, if he sees me, he'll talk to me. He'll always shake my hand. Nice. Even some guys in the office, if I could get somebody from the office, I got a couple buddies in the office over there. If I could get them on there, I'd like to have the AD, like I want to do stuff that's like Dynasty Defined. He has his thing. I'd like for us to coexist in the same thing, but we offer completely different content. So that's what I'm kind of like really working on. Like I was doing like the matches and stuff, but like that's really his thing. So I was like, well, I'll just let him keep doing that. Let him have that, not let him have it, but he's already doing it. He's already been doing it. So just let that continue to be like that. And I'm just trying to find my way through this. So yeah, the possibilities are kind of endless for me, like hopefully by the summertime or like by the off season time, I mean, I'm doing like YouTubes. I would love to do on YouTube, running full time on there. I still want to do podcasts. Like obviously I can upload the audio and stuff like that.
You can, but on YouTube.
I really want to get on YouTube. I really do. Cause like right now I like this, man. I like plugging in, but I like to like during the season, I want to like possibly keep it to just me. Now, obviously things can change, but I have like some buddies that want to get on and I'm always down for that. Maybe like for a big episode for like Big 12 or something like that. I can get us all together. But it's really hard to get everybody. Like right now, even correlating like me and you setting time to do it was a little bit more difficult for me. I mean, it's difficult for everybody. So like having 4 of us was even more difficult.
It is.
But I'm
trying
really
to get referees roundtable together, and that's like 4 or 5 different referees. Impossible, dude. Impossible.
So that's one thing is like I've had people suggest that like why don't you have somebody on with you, and I'm like, well, but then I got to work around somebody else's schedule too, and sometimes it doesn't all line up, and then sometimes you get somebody who's like, oh yeah, I want to be a part of this, but then they realize, hey, either A, they don't have the passion for it to do it week by week, or B, they can't find the time. Like sometimes, like a lot of times for me, I go into my kids' room, shut the door, tell my kids like, hey, give me 40 minutes, please. Like, give me 40 minutes. Like tell my youngest, please don't bully your older sister. Like, cause like my kids, bro, they're big into wrestling. Both my kids will say like bottom man set. If I say bottom man set, they'll say top man cover and wrestle. My youngest will wrestle her Ninja Turtles. Anything she's got. Like my youngest, she's like into like all the boy stuff, dinosaurs. But anything, it doesn't matter if she's got anything, even if it's like 2 cups, she's wrestling them. So I'm excited for their future. And that's another thing too, is like I want to have this is like a little bit of breaking, but I'm gonna eventually have like the women's club coach, the head coach, Isaac, who obviously wrestled for us last year. Yeah. I'm gonna have him on one of these shows here soon too, because I want him to explain everything that's cowgirl wrestling. Because it may be a club, but with the right sponsorship and the right support, it could be something very vital. And then like for me, if it can be successful, or at least just like continue to have support in 10 years when it's time for my girls to go, where am I? I'm not sending them to Iowa. I'll tell you that now. We're not. Mike, let me tell you right now, my daughters better never tell me like, I want to wrestle for Iowa. This is not in this house.
I want to be a Hawkeye.
Not in this house. So you can go be a Mountain Hawk. We can go to Lehigh. We can figure something out like that. But we don't speak like that. We don't. That is blasphemy. We don't do that in this house.
Mouth out with soap right now. You wash yourself.
Says, Dad, I want to go to Iowa. Says, honey, get your kid. That is your kid. Get that girl. And wash her mouth out with soap. Like, we ain't doing that.
You're walking to school from now on. That's it. Walking. I get it. It's funny. You mentioned that because obviously Liam was around Iowa wrestling like forever, right? Mm-hmm. Forever. That's all. My podcast logo is black and gold, dirt to dirt, right? Yeah. Don't worry, I changed it. I just haven't changed this one yet. But the thing was, I was like, my kid's gonna be a Hawkeye, right? I can't wait for my kid to go to college. It's gonna be a Hawkeye. Yeah. He didn't even take a visit. He didn't even go on the visit. He got through North Dakota State, Indiana, and we went to Virginia. As soon as he left Virginia, he's like, I'm not even making the Iowa trip. I'm going here. I'm like, dude, you're not even making the Iowa trip? He goes, I don't want to. He's like, this is perfect. Like, it's not, he doesn't want to be in the cold. That's the problem with him. So I was like, okay, cool. I get it. So you find whatever you like. I'm going to be a fan of wherever you go. Right. I don't care where it is. But then I realized that the Paulson twins, the Paulson brothers were there. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. We got Iowa history here. Iowa State, nonetheless, but Iowa history here. I was like, oh, forget about it. Sold. As soon as we started talking to Trent, it was like game over. The Midwest mentality was there, all that stuff. It was just like I told Liam, I was like, if there's anybody that's for you, it's Trent Paulson. The rest of the guys are great, right? I love Ian Parker, all those guys, but like I was not expecting to be switching over to blue and orange. That's for sure. At least there's some orange in it where I can get a little bit of Kakana left in it yet.
Yeah.
No Oklahoma State. None of that. No, it's Cavaliers, strictly Cavaliers. So I think that would be kind of fun if you and I, because it's ACC, and you and I and you're Big 12, we kind of get on once in a while, kind of talk some trash about everybody that's got stuff going on, kind of back and forth. We have some fun with it. But I think that's the best thing that all this brings, right? What you're doing, you are obviously, and we have the brain here. And let me explain to you, if you haven't yet, you can go listen, especially if you want to listen about Kellen Wolbert. Mm-hmm. Your future Oklahoma State guy.
That's my guy. Shout out to him and his pops.
That's right. We just saw those guys at Cheesehead. Good people. And Wisconsin Wrestler Podcast. Now those guys are brains. Those guys, they know every sectional, they know everything. There's so many teams in this fucking state, dude. There's certain ones that I'd never even heard of. These guys know all of it. So if you want Wisconsin wrestling, like we got the numbers guys here too. Like these guys are off the charts. Unfortunately, Wisconsin Grappler only does podcasts with me. He doesn't do his own.
Gotcha.
He's not tech savvy, right? He's not tech savvy. But we're bringing all this cool shit to the table. We're bringing all this stuff that you can consume, you can listen to. It's information, or it's just a synopsis of a duel, things like that. So I commend you for jumping on, dude. I think it's a good time to be in wrestling. We need to enjoy it while we can, and I'll keep saying it until I'm dead. Stop subscribing and start showing up. Go to the duels. I don't care if it's down the road. I've lied and I've been bad, and I haven't gone to just like the UW Oshkosh ones. They usually have some pretty good duels. I go, please, people. If any of you Oklahoma State people are listening to, go to every duel that you can.
For sure.
If you can, please go to Oklahoma. Please help everybody. Just help everybody. Show up to a duel, pay the fee to get in. I don't care what it is. Stop subscribing and start going. If you can't get there, obviously subscribe and watch. So that way you can enjoy it. But get to these places. Start showing up like he's doing. Go. Show up and watch. Be there. Be the fan. You don't have to be a fanatic. Just go to enjoy it. Take your kids there, because guess what? They're going to remember that shit.
Yeah.
They're definitely going to remember that.
For sure. That's how it was for me. When my mom made it a way for me to go, like my mom was a single mom just raising me and my sister, and when she made it a way for me to go, when she put, like, without that, who knows if I'm even an Oklahoma State fan, for life, or if I'm still, I mean, I love Oklahoma State, so it's kind of hard to say that, but like without her making that way for me to go, watching it on TV is one thing, but being there, because that was a Bedlam duel. So it was electric, like that place was packed. I mean, because we were a pretty good team then, because we had quite a few guys. I mean, of course we had Jordan, but we had some other guys. I mean, I believe Chris Perry was still there at that time wrestling. So like, we had some guys that were competing. I think so. I can't remember exactly. Jordan was my favorite, obviously, because like I'm mixed. So like he looked like me, so like I see all these guys like Jared Russell. I mean, I like Jared too, because he was the heavyweight. But like, or I think it was, I don't know if it was Jared or Blake. I can't remember, but because there's two of the three of the brothers went there. But the one that was the heavyweight, he was he's like big country boy. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that looks like my uncles. And I'm like, oh, Jordan Oliver. Okay, he looks like me. You know what I'm saying? That's who I connected with. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So yeah, going to the duels is very important. And like I'll always say, like, this weekend, I'm probably not gonna be able to make it out. It's, like I said, roads are pretty bad here. I go 2 hours for every duel. So I drive 2 hours to when I go to the home duels.
Shit, dude.
Yeah, I know. I think that's a little bit too why David was like, dude, he's like, like you make that trip every time. I'm like, yeah, of course. Like I'm dedicated. Like I do that. Like I get off when it's a decent day. Like I get off work like 3:00, head out there so I can get there by 5. Because if I'm going, I want to tailgate. I want that experience, and then I want to go. Then I want to go inside. So if I'm not, like, I give my tickets away. I don't charge people for them because I don't want that. Like, because there's a single mom or a single dad or, a brother that wants to take his sister, or brothers that want to go, but they don't have the means to make it. And even though the duel's $10, $12 to get in per ticket, if I can get you a little bit down, into a reserved, season ticket seat, I'll do that for you every time. And I don't expect anything in return, because that's just not who I am. And like I said, because my mom made that possibility for me, I like to, pay that forward and make a possibility for someone else. So if you're listening to this and you don't got tickets, let me know. Cause I'm always getting like, not free tickets. I'm not getting them from the university, but a lot of other fans are like that too. Like, hey, we can't make it, but we just want to give our tickets to whoever can go. So PSA, if you're looking for tickets and you want to go, let me know. I can get you in the building for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely hit them up. If you guys are in the Oklahoma area, I don't care what fan you are, go watch wrestling. I don't care. At some point, the rivalry is cool, but at some point the sport needs to get a little more recognition because we don't want it to disappear. So go. I'm still trying to figure out how to logistically make the drive to Virginia every duel.
Yeah, that's gonna be crazy.
16 hours.
I actually went to Virginia for the first time in June. I went out there for work. They flew me out there. They paid for me to be out there for like 10 days and work. Awesome. First time ever being out there. Yeah, I stayed like right by Old Dominion. Nice.
Yeah. So we were in Charlottesville, obviously, for the visit, and I was blown away. I was like, man, this is awesome out here.
Yeah. The only thing is,
beautiful country.
But when it's like a hot day, that humidity is rough, and I'm a big.
It's gross.
I was out there sweating.
210 right here, man. You ain't joking. And I used to work construction. This fat guy hates heat. I'm telling you that much right now.
I did concrete.
5 feet of snow.
I know. There's no. Yeah, I'd rather be hot than cold. The cold is awful because at least in the hot, it's miserable. But you can move around. You can still. My birthday's in the summer too. Yeah. So you can still move around. But yeah, like right now, the cold. That's what I'm saying. Like Sunday, I'm probably not going to go out there because it's just. I mean, the roads are already bad. Like we had like rain and sleet, and then the snow came over the top. So it's just not really safe. Like because when I go, like I usually break the whole family out there on the weekends, unless if it's like a Thursday or Friday duel, then I was just going there and coming back. But weekends, I like to take the whole family out there. We usually get like an Airbnb, just enjoy the time. Like, so when I'm going out there, like I'm putting a lot of money just to go to one duel or whatever it may be, So
yeah. And you're not even a wrestling parent. That's amazing.
Yeah,
that is absolutely amazing, dude. If I could, there was something that someone brought up back in the day. They're like, if there's one thing that I could tell you to not do that I did, they said, don't ever sit down and do the math of how much you spent in wrestling for your kid. And we're talking like what we do, going to North Carolinas, going to US Opens, all that stuff. Cause then she said how much she spent. I know for a fact we go to like 20 times more than what they do. And I almost passed out and threw up at the same time. This is ridiculous. So, and it's really cool again that my voice is getting weird, but it's really cool again to see that you're bringing that back to something that that you saw. And that's why I think it's important that these people do the same thing. The fans they're like, oh, we love wrestling. Well, now show it. Now is the time where we need to show it. So that's cool that you're paying it forward with the tickets and knowing that someone else would be able to get their kids there. That's really cool. You're a better human being than I am. So that's, as far as that goes, that's the way to go about it. But again, I mean, honestly, I think everybody, if it were, whether it's Minio or it's Willie or it's someone, I think we all should be doing that. Like if we have the availability to put that out there for someone, I think it's a borderline our responsibility, right?
Yeah.
To advocate for the sport as much as possible, doing as much as we can. So, but I commend you. I want to talk to you for a little bit after we're done here. We've been going for about an hour and 24 minutes. So we've done 3-hour podcasts, but not everybody's got 3 hours in. You know what I'm saying? And it's very Joe Rogan-y, and that's kind of how I wanted it to be. Is I don't want it to be scripted. I don't want to. There was one guy that tried telling me I should ask certain questions. I was like, deleted. Not gonna be going with you. Don't tell me how to do my show, bro. That's not how we're doing this.
Yeah.
So, people stay tuned. Check them out. You got your own website. What's the website called?
Just if you tune into it, like I'll share it on my Twitter right now because I don't know the URL to it off the top of my head. Like I said, it's only been up for like about, is it the
lowsingle.com or something like that's tied to, like if you type that in or no?
No, I think it's like it's like a long URL. It's like the low single. If you just go to the low single, like on my Twitter page at the low single, it's right in my bio. You can click it. It leads you right to there. Leads you to the podcast. Eventually we'll have the shirt link there when that drops. Once like I said, I want to get that sample back first and make sure it's what I want before. I don't want to like set it up and then people start getting shirts and like, dude, what the heck is this? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't even know one. So I didn't like, that's not me. I want to own the shirt too. Since it's not going to be the place I'm going through normally. But if you just tune into at the low single, that'll give you everything. It'll lead you to everything I got. Will lead you to the website. Will lead you to everything. Yeah,
you're on Twitter. You're on Instagram. Are you on Facebook?
Nope, no Facebook. I didn't even have Instagram. I didn't even have Instagram until like a couple months ago, and then like my buddy was like, "Dude, you need to have it. Like it's good for content." And I'm like,
"It is
all right." Well,
So
I'm not really a social media guy.
Well, that's the big thing too, like, especially with us, like, I'm not because Justin Bash, he builds websites. I mean, he's on his computer all day, so he's able to build graphics whenever he wants to. And I know the one that he uses is like pre-built. So he's just got to stick a new photo in it, add some new letters, all that other stuff. But that's a lot of what we do is just kind of regurgitate, right? We're regurgitating something that we saw and we feel like it was good for you to see. And we're just putting it back out there in case you didn't see it, kind of thing. Right.
For sure.
And I do a lot of the graphics myself, like the stuff, that I would put out just announcing the show with you. It's all, I mean, I've been dealing with Photoshop and all that in Adobe forever. So it just kind of went hand in hand with what I do. Now, am I out there streaming content and making videos? Not yet. Would I like to? Yeah. But again, like you said, I don't like going into something half-assed. I want a whole ass it, right?
For sure.
So
full moon.
Whole ass. Full moon, that's right. You're getting the whole cheeks.
I'm talking about Mike Tyson on Netflix.
That show's the weirdest shit on the planet.
What's crazy is you could tell the people that weren't fans of Mike Tyson or never really heard of him because they're like, oh my God, like that's not even wild. Like y'all clearly never seen an interview with him. Like
where you been? See his face?
He told a dude he would have sex with him. Like, why he's interviewing him? Like, I don't think butt cheeks out is like, that's mild. He's in his 50s, 60s. Like, he's chilling now.
Yeah, he don't care. The zero F's given on that guy. That's for sure. But go check him out. We'll make sure we put the links for everything that you got to within the description on YouTube and stuff like that once we get it out. But we congratulate you, and we're going to cut off because we want to talk to you for a second. But everybody, we're going to let you go. This has been another Vision Quest podcast episode, and we've been talking with the Low Single Man.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you joining us, and tell the folks, out in Oklahoma State land that Virginia's coming for you. So. Just gonna say that. I'm just gonna put that out in the open space, and I'm sure someone's gonna be like, "That guy's an idiot," but that's fine. That's fine.
Hey,
I got confidence in my Cavaliers, man.
Don't bring a sword to a gunfight now. All right.
All right, man. Peace. We are gonna get out of here. Roll some music before I get myself fired. See you guys. All of our episodes are brought to you by Appleton Tattoo, located at 117 South Appleton Street in Appleton, Wisconsin, right off the main drag on College Avenue. You can't miss them. I've had some work done. I have a Celtic cross that covers my back that was done by Jason. We're not done yet. Jason Winans and crew, the artists that he have there, those guys are the best in the Fox Valley. They are definitely one to go to if it's something that you've just been kind of throwing around. They'll make you feel comfortable. It's a very clean environment. Very nice crew, and very willing to get done whatever you need done when you need it done. You can message them on Facebook. I know they're on Facebook. You can give them a call at 920-604-8289 and get in touch with Jason Winans and crew at Appleton Tattoo, located again in Appleton, Wisconsin at 117 South Appleton Street, right in Appleton. Very flexible hours, great crew, clean environment again. I would not send you anywhere else except for these guys. Appleton Tattoo.